My name's Jim Flano, and welcome back to Jim's Weekly Roundup. Obviously, last week was a mental week with all me kind of kicking a ball over my house. We're back into it, throwing my full self at it this week and now again, so don't worry. Any bit of consistency that we might have had is back this week. We're going to rattle through all the Irish sports throughout the weekend. We'll probably start off with hurling, because the worst thing that could happen to hurling probably happened over the weekend with London, New York, and Roscommon all win their respective tournaments. Roscommon, Nicky Rackard, New York, Laurie Marr, and which was London. London won something. Was it Chris Ring? Nonetheless, obviously, three teams people probably didn't want to see win the tournament. Nonetheless, I won't touch it because obviously everyone deserves their shot at glory and whatnot, even including Roscommon sometimes. So, yeah, look, good win for them, and happy to see these same teams go well. But it's just not what we want to see. We'll start with rugby this week because obviously we only 2 matches of rugby compared to the about 8 million football matches we had this weekend. So obviously Munster versus the Sharks is where we'll start off first in the URC quarter final. Where the best way I can put it is this game was a game where anyone could have won, and Munster were so unfortunate to lose a second penalty shootout in what is it 3 years? Obviously they're going against Toulouse in 2022, I think it was. Must just be sickening, and especially in the way that it happened. And I'm a Leinster fan. We all know I'm a Leinster fan, but for the life of me, I'm a Leinster fan and I'm a kicker. And for all that's been said on Twitter and social media about Jaden Hendricks and what he did Jack Crowley, I think a lot of people said, oh sure, Crowley nailed his kick. Anyway, for me, as a kicker, when you're trying to set up your kick and you're trying to do, especially in such a high pressure situation, URC quarterfinal penalty shootout, to do what Jaden Hendricks did, I think is horrific. I mean that in the sense that, yes, I will admit, I think he had cramp. You can quite clearly see on his calf that it's in distress. The man also did sprint up to celebrate with his team after, and had just nailed his kick before that. So to say that he had to lie down right beside where Jack Crowley was and wink at him, look, lie down all I want. Do not wink and do not show disrespect to another kicker. I think my hands go up for Jack Crowley. I think Jack Crowley's absolutely exceptional, even the way he handled it. I'm not sure who was refereeing. Was it Nick Berry that was refereeing it? But anyway, he turned around and he just said, I'm taking my kick. He can lie there all he wants. I'm putting this over. And for the ref to stop that, I think is a disgrace. If Crowley wants to throw that over and he thinks he can, players should not be allowed to sit down on the ground and get treatment during such a high pressure environment. If that's the case, well, I'm sure we'll see, if that's a World Cup quarter final or semi-final, final, whatever, and a player lies down in front of a penalty, delaying it for, a minute or so. Of course that's going to mess with your kicker. So what can be done? Probably not a whole pile, but thank God Crowley, if Crowley misses kick now, there'll probably be World War III. Obviously Munster did go on to lose after Rory Scannell penalty miss, but yeah, really unfortunate for Munster. I thought they were well in. I really thought that they would win that. So a real shame. So as for Leinster, very little to analyse in this game. Performance got Leinster through. Probably thought that they were going to absolutely run home with it at the start, but didn't end up happening nonetheless. So it's one of those games that you just have to get through. Glasgow next week are going to be a challenge. Glasgow are really going to be very, very good. And look, of course, we bet them 52-0 early on in the year, and we bet them 13-8, I think it was there the last day. But this game probably means a lot more. And obviously Leinster will go full strength, and it will be tough. But this is going to be a game that it's going to be an absolute battle for Leinster with how physical it's going to be with Hugh Pilato and Jones there in centre. Adam Hastings as well brought a lot of bite to it there last time for Glasgow. So we'll have to see. I do think Leinster will win. And obviously a news story of this week is if Leinster do beat Glasgow, and if, I want to reiterate that, the final will be in Croke Park, obviously against the South African opposition now, which is huge. Obviously a lot of has gone up online of do they deserve this and whatnot, but I think personally a URC final, there's speculation of when will Leinster won silverware and whatnot, but this would be unbelievable to win the URC for the first time in Croke Park in front of a hopefully sold out crowd. Would just be something absolutely special. And personally, if it happens, and please God, it does. But as Leinster fans, as we probably know over the last few years, I think we've learned not to get ahead of ourselves. And it's been a thing of just not going off and not saying, oh yeah, sure, we're playing who in the final. But we know, I think we all know not to underestimate this Glasgow team because of how good they are and how, I think even just look back 2 weeks ago and how seriously strong they were. So say a prayer, but that is something I think we'd all love to see. So, on to the football. We'll obviously start off down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh as Kerry came from behind to beat Cork. They kicked an absolute pile of 2 pointers. to come back and beat them. Dave Clifford with 1-8. David Clifford is just so unbelievably good to watch. And I know this might be bias and we're still early in championship, and I know these games are, look, they don't mean a whole pile to teams like Kerry who, look, are going to walk the group, but he is unbelievable. There's no other player that I can look at in the country that matches him skill wise and just what he can do on the ball. Like, I know this is probably a mass generalization, but he's like Messi, because I do genuinely think he's just so raw skilled, and like, obviously he works for what he gets, but like, what he has is something so special that you just can't replicate. Even his goal straight from kick out, like, or even his goal straight from the kick out was just something exceptional. Like, it was just took it on the fly, takes on about 3 lads, being pulled down so easily, just throw that over him, get an easy point off kick out, fucking absolutely buried it. Saying this though, Kerry will have to probably sweat out Paul Gainey and Paddy Clifford, who both kind of are injured per se, or might not be there going forward, but if they can keep on producing performances they've been doing, now albeit against Roscommon and Cork aren't exactly, you know, peak opposition now in fairness, but it's not the easiest group of all time now. Meath will be a bit of a test, obviously in a neutral venue in 2 weeks time, but we'll just have to see how they go from there. Speaking of Meath and Roscommon were playing in Dr. Hyde Park there at the weekend, which ended in a draw, which was one of the weirdest games you'll ever see. I think Meath went up by, it was like 7 or 8 points, and Roscommon had scored 2-1 in the first 5 minutes. It was one of the weirdest games you'll probably ever see. Did end up in a draw, which I think probably suits Roscommon. I think as long as Roscommon didn't lose that game, they were, you know, okay. Presuming they beat Cork in 2 weeks time in a neutral venue, but Meath have probably seen themselves through now. They play Kerry in the last round, but it's not probably Kerry or Meath are through now. So will they go second or third is probably the big question for them, but realistically it's the tiebreaker now is this Roscommon and Cork game, which will be absolutely huge for either who wins it. There was a thing done online on Twitter, there's some stats page, and out of 5,096 simulations, I believe, Roscommon won the All-Ireland in one of them. So, by the industrial set, Mayo are back. Mayo bet Tyrone by 7 points up in Armagh, and for the life of me, I don't think anyone can explain how this happened. Mayo looked dead and out of it, and just, like, no one would have said that Mayo were going to win that game. I would love to get odds on them to win by 7 points, but simply, like, goals from Darren McHale and Ryan Dunhu. Ryan Dunhu was absolutely exceptional, and I do think I love Ryan Dunhu. I think he's an absolute baller, but Mayo looked dead and out of this championship after kind of losses to Galway, and the inverse, they pushed Galway, a loss to Monaghan there last week. They just didn't look in it at all, and now they're well in with a chance. That group is obviously so even. I think they're all on 2 points. Mayo are in with a great chance of getting out of that group, and I don't think a lot of Mayo fans saw that after what happened last week and how it was going. So, like, look, the best way I can put it with Mayo is, I don't like Mayo. When Mayo are in the championship, because of the fan base they have, the championship is a better championship. It's no fun when Mayo don't make a semi-final, in my opinion. And that's probably really biased, but when Mayo fans are travelling to games, they have the best sport. And I always say that Mayo fans do have the best sport. I think they're right up there. I think Mayo fans have the best sport. I think it's them and Donegal, for me, who've always been the best sport. Like, rain or shine, they will be there. And even, like, don't want to throw shade at the likes of Kerry fans, but even for the likes of a semi-final, Kerry fans probably wouldn't travel to Croker. So when Mayo are in the championship, it's for the best. So hopefully, I would love to see Mayo get out of that group. Can they win All-Ireland? Probably not. Saying that, it would be the most Mayo thing of all time to go on and win this fucking All-Ireland. Before we jump on to our next beat, I'd like to mention this episode is once again sponsored by Caracal, who have been so good to us for jumping on board and throwing us out a few bits, even with helping me kick football over the house. That was a Caracal football. So, nonetheless, great lads, be sure to buy their grips. You have a link in the bio, in my TikTok bio, and there'll be a link in the description of this video. Make sure to get onto them. As much as I said about Mayo, it might mean nothing because Donegal absolutely annihilated Cavan by 21 points. So Mayo will most likely have to beat Donegal that'll be a neutral venue to get out of the group. Saying that though, they do have a good chance. I wouldn't exactly put it past them. Donegal though do look the real deal. But for Donegal to beat Cavan by 21 points is absolutely insane. This Donegal team could be absolutely ridiculous going forward, and who knows? Like, I think probably their best chance in years of having a good crack at the All-Ireland and being a team that are a proper contender. Like, Donegal over the last maybe 3-4 years have been a team that struggled to do well in Ulster, struggled outside of Ulster, and like just didn't look at the races at all. I think even fucking Roscommon bet them by a good few points like about 2 years ago. Down somehow bet loud. For life, me, this Down team have confused me more than anyone in the world. I actually have no idea how Down are performing so well. A big mention for Adam Crimmins, who provided a block in the last second of the game, which was essentially a man who I praise as well. I'm pretty sure took a shot on Tommy Dernan, and from to block that down so that it wasn't a draw was absolutely incredible. And even to get the ball, this is why I think that the new rules are so great. Blocks down the ball, grabs the ball, boots it off the field of play, and celebrations galore. It looks unbelievable for down on Park Elster. It's just something so special, and it's so good to watch. So I think a really good moment for down football, which essentially puts them. That's 2 wins from 2. That essentially it puts them out of the group definitely, but they have a good chance at topping this group, I'd like to say, which is insane for what Down have been trying to do in Southern Ireland. I don't think a lot of people saw them going. Obviously, getting relegated to Division 3 as well. They're well punching above their weight. So the 2 big games on Sunday, obviously Derry and Galway drew. Derry threw away, I think it was an 8-point lead, was it? I think it was a huge lead anyway, to draw with Galway. And it was just scandalous by Derry. You think, you're kind of watching this game, you're thinking just Derry are going well, and they might, they're showing us what the Derry team that we've kind of got to know over the last. They're showing us what the Derry team that we've kind of got to know over the last kind of two kind of 3-ish years. And then they go and throw it all away. Obviously a great goal by Shane Walsh. I've touched on it before, and I said about Jordan Morris there last week. Shane Walsh is such a good player to watch because he takes lads on. He gets the ball, he goes to recycle, he's able to cut back in the back door and put it in net. Like, I think Shane Walsh is just unbelievable. Obviously going to let that come back a good bit with, I think he got 2 or 3 scores as well alongside that. A man who hasn't played a lot of football this year, especially. So really, really good to see, and I'm really big fan of Shane Walsh. This group was well open, of course. So it all comes down to the last day. I think that all can still qualify, if I'm correct to say that. Obviously, this touches on Dublin Armagh as well, which Armagh bet Dublin in great fashion. I've touched on Dave Clifford in this episode, and I said how good he was. But Rian O'Neill was absolutely exceptional. And I think for all that was said about him in the first half year, obviously not playing for Armagh, not being there, he is so essential to this Armagh team. And he proved it there at the weekend, just in how he does it. His point from outside the 45 is one of the greatest points you'll ever see. All our sport made a post this morning saying there probably should have been a 3-pointer, there should be a 3-pointer line for Rian O'Neill. But he is just absolutely exceptional. So, like, I think we'd all love to see Rian O'Neill, Dave Clifford, and kind of Ryan O'Donoghue even. I know Ryan O'Donoghue is a bit of a stretch in that conversation, but Rian O'Neill and Dave Clifford essentially go against each other. It's just a fascinating watch every time he gets the ball. Every time he gets the ball, you kind of sit forward in your chair and strap your seatbelt on. Dublin, I think Dublin had a 37%. Dublin had a 37% conversion rate in this game, and I don't know the stats for it exactly, but I even say they gave away about 6 50-meter frees, which is absolutely scandalous. They seem to be their own biggest fucking enemies in the game, and it was criminal in the way that they're playing football. It just doesn't look like the Dublin that we've got to know over the last whatever how long we've watched Dublin at their peak. Is football changed? Yes. Have Dublin adapted properly? I don't think so. Armagh, on the other hand, have adapted absolutely incredibly. Well, it leaves it so Armagh topped the group anyway, and Dublin, Derry, and Galway all can still qualify. So that neutral game on Saturday or something week is going to be absolutely something special, and I cannot wait. So yeah, that's it. Once again, thank you so much to Caracals for sponsoring this episode, and they've been so good to me. Be sure to click the link in the description or the bio, but that's all. Obviously, huge weekend ahead now with URC semi-finals, which is only Leinster. Obviously, a break from the gap. But the hurling is back, so I'll see you next week. And yeah.